Hey, Grand Ascension, everyone. How's everybody doing? It's me, Nisi Denise, back to do another video reading. Um, like I said before, I've got a couple of different things that I want to talk about. I'm gonna have to split this up into about 3 videos, so bear with me. It's gonna be a while before I make another long video, I guess, as I'm preparing for my trip. But oops, I just knocked something off the table. I hope everybody's having an amazing Thursday. Supposedly today is quote unquote Freedom Day for the so-called Black people. Juneteenth, I had somebody send me just a few minutes ago some kind of video about Juneteenth and the celebration of when the slaves were free. I tell you, you can't. I'm just gonna say this. Everybody, clap their hands. Let's just put a round of applause together for the custodians, the Anunnaki, the Greys, the Edmonds, and all these other factions that have really screwed the humanity up. And I hate to use human because it really alludes to a sea monster, but for the sake of this video, a lot of people are willfully ignorant. I don't celebrate the holidays like that, y'all. I don't. I mean, I know today is a holiday at my firm. I'm off. I'm cleaning up, doing some things. I'm gonna do some reading. Just pack and get some things together, but it's a chill day for me. And, I don't partake in all that shit. I really don't. No pun intended about the cursing or whatever. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but this, my page and my contents for educational purposes only, free thinkers, people who question things, right? Who don't just follow along with the narrative. So my point is that, for me, it's very frustrating when I see the average so quote unquote Black person still identifying as a crayon color, still following along the belief of what the fictional government has taught us in this indoctrination when we're born into these avatars, not knowing that they've put us all in a box, okay? Black and white does not mean the color of your skin, people. If you don't hear anything else, I'm telling you, it is a class or a caste system. It's about status, okay? That's what that is. It's about status. On paper, what the U.S. government, aka the Zionists, okay, the custodians, what they have done is they have put in place laws and sanctions and policies and procedures in place for the average person to follow. And they do not question what they've been taught, right? I mean, Rockefeller said it best. He wants a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. So, I can't, like I said before in many of my videos for whoever watches this, I can't relate to the average people. I can't relate to an average person. I have a hard time dealing with the stupidity of people. I don't give a shit how many degrees you got. I don't care if you got a doctorate, a master's, whatever. You're indoctrinated in the system, the very system that's keeping you enslaved, and you're so stupid that you don't even see that shit. I'm just keeping it 100. And for those of you who know, you know. And shout out to Original Lone Wolf and Chief Red Wolf because they spit facts. Drop 432, Navi Poet, West Side Cool It. I mean, all of y'all, Camiro, y'all all do wonderful, wonderful work. Research. There's a lot of the younger generation, like the children that are, and I say children, okay. The younger generation is in their 30s, all right, because y'all kids to me, because I have kids that are almost 40, all right, children. I don't like to use the word kids because that means baby goat. But anyway, I hate this language. Now I see what you're talking about, Chief. When you have to really kind of pull from your inner monologue and speak in a way where everyone can understand. But then the words that they've given us is just, they've really mixed our language up. I'm telling you, the more you read, and I'm telling you, every time you read something, you could go back and reread it another time and get something completely different from it. So, I have a hard time really relating to people, And shout out to Chief Carlisle if you see this video. He's a police chief here in our community. He heard me talking when I was in the permit office a couple of weeks ago. It was not last week or week before last. And he came out and he introduced himself and he's like, Denise. I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah, I watched a couple of your videos. I'm like, oh my God. But he's a friend of mine on here on Facebook. But I talk about so many different topics, man. I don't know. I don't even know where to begin anymore. It's just crazy because when you start to read and you really start to research and you ask the creator for the knowledge, it will come to you. But you got to be ready to receive it and to understand it and process it and utilize it and then be able to recall the information. You know, I'm just very humble and thankful that I am on my journey, and I'm still continuing on my journey. Let me take a sip of my everyday dose. You see the steam coming off of it? I just made it. With goat's milk, and I add a little bit of Chobani creamer, but I'm getting off of that creamer, and I'm just gonna just strictly do goat's milk powder like I've been doing, and not do the store-bought stuff because man, they're poisoning everything. I'm just not on here to talk about conspiracies anymore. I'm speaking facts. Every single thing we've been taught is to keep us in a box, literally in a box. When we're born or fall into this lower dimension and realm and take on these bodies in this form, we really have been dumbed down to our senses. And our ancestors were once a great people who knew how to heal themselves, the food, the energy, the water. They had all this information. And when the last reset occurred, which is what I'm getting ready to talk about, there's a lot of cloning that was done. And, I'm not trying to offend anyone, okay? I'm not pointing my fingers at the light skin or pale skin race. I'm not doing that. No, let me tell you why I'm not doing that. Because it is much as our fault. When I say our fault, the melanated people, okay, dark skin, people that look like me and darker, as much as our fault as it is the pale skins, and if not more. We're not taking accountability for the shit that we did, okay? And nobody wants to have a conversation because now when I go on social media and I scroll, I'm looking at all this racial injustice and all this police brutality and things like that. I see that, but what you don't understand is we set ourselves up for failure. And it's a lot of the backbiting and the crab in a barrel mentality. You got boule individuals like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Quanell X here in Houston. I mean, there's a long list of the boule type individuals who have joined Freemasonry. All right, I'm just telling you, who also are in the fraternities and also the sisters, the sororities. Y'all don't understand that each individual sorority house pledges itself to a specific family. All right, and that family ties back to these beings that came here hundreds of years ago and that are still in our midst, that walk among us, that look like us. I'm going to put together a presentation when I come back over some nanotechnology and over some shape-shifting reptilians, okay? I'm actually going to put that together and I'm going to pull up some things. I'm going to show you some patents, all right? I just got to bring the receipts because most people go, oh, okay, she's on her conspiracy journey. No. I'm just pointing shit out to you that you're not putting together because you got your head so far up in the clouds, or you so damn far in your existence that you believe in this lie. Like literally, when I exit this body, I don't want to come back to this realm. Okay. I want to go beyond the ice walls, go back where I belong, or go back to a higher dimensional path. Right. I don't want to have to keep reincarnating again. I don't want to do that. I want to skip the reincarnation process if I can. I done this many times. I've done this, and I have a recall, a remembrance of 2 times that I've passed, that I've left this body. I've exited, not this particular body. I was in a different body, but I have 2 recalls of 2 different lives. All right, so it's glitching. Whatever they're doing, you can recall everything. You can remember every single life you live. If you know what you're doing and you know how to fast, meditate, pray, use certain frequencies, there's things that you can do. But they're working overtime to destroy this great dome because it was never supposed to be like this. And I'm being honest with you. When you read the text, you will see that we as melanated people were peaceful, loving people. But somewhere along the way, we were fooling with stuff that we weren't supposed to be fooling with and doing things we weren't supposed to be doing and backbiting each other. And that left room for these things to come right on in, set up shop, create a whole new race of people, right? Pale skin race was pretty much cloned. Now, I'm not trying to offend any of my pale skin brothers and sisters because I told you I got half my family pale skin. So I'm just going to simply tell you, I wouldn't be here because my mama's daddy. I'm just going to tell you. So it's not hate. I'm just simply saying some of them, if you have O blood type, O positive, O negative, okay, you come from us, melanated people. You come from us, pale skins, white people. You come from us. You have a thoughtness in your DNA, okay, in the avatar that you're in. And regardless if you're not O positive, O negative, you A, B, whatever, R, whatever, you still a sentient being. Some of you just don't know it. And I'm talking about all races of being, not just pale skin, not just so quote unquote white people. I don't use that word white because I know it's a status thing. And I do know, I have met one person who was white and says on their birth certificate black. And they have blonde hair, blue eyes, and they literally are pale and they burn in the sun. So what are we talking about? You're going to say, oh, well, that's a mistake on the birth certificate. No, no, it wasn't. Because I'm telling you, what they did in this system is just, man, I could be on here for days talking to y'all about some stuff. I'm really going to just read, right? But I had to come in and just tell you that, hey, today is a fake ass holiday. For those of you who believe in that slavery stuff and you were free, I'm going to tell you, we was never freaking slaves. We've always been prisoners of war. And I'll go toe to toe with anybody else who says differently. I don't care where you've been educated from, because I can tell you that all ties back to certain families. Okay. And Chief is right. There's more than 13 families. Oh, there's a ton of them, but they're in a hierarchy. And again, they fall under these otherworldly beings that set the system up in place with the help of our melanated people. I'm just simply saying. So I got this book, Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids. I want to read this to you. Just listen, all right? And I think, like I said, I'm going to split up my videos 50-50. Some of them I'm going to come on camera and read to you here, which is kind of boring. So if you could put me on play and just listen while you're working or whatever. And then some of them I'm actually going to just flip my camera down and we're going to read and you'll see the pages, right? I want to read this one part to you where he says, this gentleman is trying to do an introduction of how he got into the discovery and the research of a whole civilization that was wiped out over 250, 300 years ago. So you talk about the Revolutionary War and all this fake shit. We're taught these things and it's put into place. There's laws and things that are on the books and policies and procedures, like I said. But I'm telling you that everything that we've been taught has been a lie. It's been misconstrued. I don't care about some of you who say you study history and you got your degree in this and that. I'm going to tell you again, you need to look at the alternate history. Some will say, oh, it's pseudoscience, it's pseudo-history. No, it's not. But I'm going to tell you one thing. When you start to wake up as much as people are now, and they're starting to see the system is flawed, and they're starting to see all the lies and all the BS, then we're on a path to where they may institute another reset. Now, I've read somewhere, and I've read in two different texts, where I think it was Claudio's work, and I think I read it also in Lost Teachings of Atlantis, I think. But they do this this reset every 1,500 years or so, right? They've done at least 6 of them now. We're like the 7th humanity, 7th generation, 7th version, right? And so they've done these resets over time. Now, since they are pushing forward with this AI and the graphene and all the toxins and poisons that are riddled in this environment and throughout our bodies, they're shortening our lifespans even more. Okay, so the fact that people are waking up and understanding and researching Tartary and researching the lands beyond the ice walls and how the government is really just one big gimmick, one big fraud, I believe they will reinstitute another reset. And it just happened 250, 300 years ago with the establishment of America. It's around the time of the World's Fairs. And you have wars going on systematically on every continent, because what they did was, like Chief said, they had to go in and they had to kill off the original people of the dome, which was us, the melanated people, right? We're all over the world, and we've always been all over the world. And we weren't always this color. I'm just going to tell you. And the fact that you have a new race of people on the planet, my pale-skinned brothers and sisters, You guys are some of the most warringest, factionist people that I've ever met. And I can say that because I come from you guys. I mean, I have that lineage within me in my DNA. And I'm not pointing it out to say it in a mean way. I'm simply saying there is a lot of there's a lot of people who are misguided and who do not understand what this is and what they encompass. And more importantly, they don't understand the true history. It's really simple to figure this out, especially when you start doing your genealogy, right? That's the key point. When you start doing the paperwork research, that's not swabbing the inside of your mouth and spitting in a tube. Why would you do that when they're just accessing your DNA and they're building a system and creating a system, a false narrative to keep you guys dumbed down and enslaved and to keep you away from the truth, the true nature of this place and the true nature of what you are in your existence, right? So my point is, when you start to do your genealogy and you start backtracking, you'll see when your family came over here on a boat. And many of you have family members that were on orphan trains, or they were quote unquote Cabbage Patch babies. They were picked, they were cloned, and I know how that sounds. I mean, I'm just telling you, and not every pale skinned person, like I said, went through that process. Like I said, some of you guys have our DNA and our blood within you. You don't even know it. I'm telling you, you don't even know it. You know? And you go, well, I'll take a DNA test. And I don't trust the government. I'm here to tell you, I don't trust none of them mofos. Because I know they don't give a shit about us, and they never have, and they're using us. They're literally harnessing our energy. And they're literally keeping us in a box and keeping us dumbed down. And they've got this system so locked down that they have cities and they have set up establishments underground and deep underground bases where they can live for years on end. We are the surface dwellers, okay? And I mean, the quicker you pull the Band-Aid off and you start to go do your own research, you'll start to see this shit don't add up and it stinks, you know? And I always come back to saying, hey, you know what? It really truly is melanated people who started this off as far as the destruction, I do believe. Well, let me say not believe, because belief is a lack of knowledge and knowing for. I've read we were doing things that we shouldn't have been doing. We were calling things up from the deep. Let me just put it that way, right? You want to say sorcery, necromancy. Some people call it voodoo, hoodoo, witchcraft, spiritualism. I'm going to say playing with dimensional things, okay? Beings that don't have bodies, disembodied beings, all right? All right, I'm just going to tell you. Some people call them the fallen angel, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, everybody's got a different name for them. The jinn, aliens, extraterrestrials. I don't even try to use aliens anymore because I know that they come from another either dimension within this dome, or they come from beyond the dome, beyond the ice walls, or they've been here and they've watched this whole thing unfold. Right, so they're terrestrial beings. They're just not quote unquote humans, if you want to call them that. So my point is that when you start to connect the dots in different industries and different things, you pick a topic, you go down the rabbit hole, it all comes back together. And I would highly suggest you guys pick up the book, The Pale Horse by William Cooper. Okay, Behold the Pale Horse. That will get you started, right? So I'm gonna hold this book up, take a screenshot of it. This gentleman is a Freemason. All right. I know Chief went over to Scotland. He saw King James Castle and he did the 12 drinks, and he has a story to tell, and I can't wait to hear it. But, I'm just going to read this off, and I'm going to point some things out to you. So he says this: I grew up in a house with a father that was a little ahead of his time regarding to conspiracy theories. I didn't understand why he read books like David Icke, which I do have several of David's books in there. Hopefully I'll get to meet him one day. Who at the time was considered to be out there, having been shunned by the BBC and ridiculed by many. The thought of someone I considered to be intelligent reading Icke's books baffled me. Okay. My father, and this is a guy who's talking, still is a master Freemason. And although he joined in the hope of furthering his career, he also had a quest for hidden knowledge. Okay. From the Illuminati to King Solomon's temple, he hoped that by joining, he would be provided the answers to so many questions. His library was vast, with a plethora of books on Freemasonry and a few by Stephen Hawkins. As I reached my 20s, I started reading them too. I also followed in his footsteps and joined the Freemasons at the Grand Lodge in the United Kingdom, located in London when I was 30. Unlike my father, this was not to further my own career, right? As at the time, I owned my own business, okay? And my client base consisted mainly of boy racers whose custom I secured through motor publications, okay? Masonic connections wouldn't have influenced the decision to purchase from me. My only reason for joining was to find out what my father knew, and hopefully a lot more, by progressing through the ranks as quickly as possible. My aim was to ultimately join a very specific chapter, the Knights Templar, okay? Whilst I appreciate that today, that the Knights Templars are not the same organization as the original chapter, for me, it was certainly going to provide a lot more knowledge than I would get through the traditional craft lodges. Moreover, having seen them walking around the Grand Lodge, I was in awe of them and really wanted to earn that white smock and the red cross, okay? I learned quite a lot over the years, and I attended, but many of the meetings turned into members mainly serving police officers in London, okay? And they still do that today. I mean, it's all about, like, it's these secret societies, these fraternities, the sororities, they're all interconnected. And it's all a multi-layered web, and they all fall under, like I said, there's hierarchies to this shit. There's levels to this shit. So you're like at the very bottom level, like I am. And there are some that are lower than me. I'm just saying. If you want to say that in terms of you're looking at this reality, but truly, I don't care to participate in anything in this world anymore. I really don't. I could care two fucks about it, because I understand now what this is. Like, I really need to get to a point to where I am doing the fasting for 40 days. Okay. I can do 3 days, but getting up to 40 is going to take some work. I'm just going to have to do it, you know? But he did this so that he could learn the knowledge. He could grow in knowledge, right? So he says the majority of people, they rose through the ranks and force. He personally witnessed individuals rise to positions of great power by recruiting their superiors into the Freemasonry, okay? And you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You know, because they're going to take care of each other. I'm telling you. Whether you're in law enforcement, wherever. It doesn't matter. If you're in any kind of society or organization, you're going to take care of your chapter members. You're going to take care of your brothers and sisters, as they want to eloquently put it. But again, you don't know who you're serving. You don't know really what you're doing. Now, you think you go in there with one intention, but I'm telling you, people at the very top know everything, and then what they do is they keep everything compartmentalized. And I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that's how they are able to come up with this beautiful perversion that we live in. I'm giving them props. I'm shouting out to these fucktards, because they really got it going on. And the thing, they really think they control us. Like, they literally think when we leave these bodies, they can recycle our energy, bring us back, send us right back in here, another body. But what people don't understand is that all this is coming to a head. Even those things that are underground, people that are watching us now on video and behind the scenes and our appliances, anything with a chip, basically, eye in the sky, wherever, their time is coming too. The things that look like us but are not us, they're gonna lose that spark as well. See, what I'm here to tell you is the creator of all is not happy. And the fact that so much has been going on in this dome, and we are willfully going along with it in their ignorance. They've been feeding us people for years. They've been abusing children for years. They've been doing things, unspeakable acts for years, and it's just now starting to come to the surface. I mean, I can't be any plainer than that. When you hurt a pure innocent baby or child, you got to know there's only one place for you. I'm serious. The being in the void is not happy. I posted a clip, a news article over on Facebook. Shout out to Chief Rebwolf. He posted it yesterday, and I just saw it early this morning, like 3 a.m. of I believe it was either in Chicago or New York. It was in one of these major cities, right? And it was a religious institution, nuns, adoption agency, that type of thing, where they literally had found over 792 babies' bodies buried. What the hell is going on there? So I'm telling you, you guys thinking you're serving something, a religious organization or institution, a very quote unquote highly regarded institution, there is a dark side to every single thing in this dome. And I'm telling you, it all falls back to the corruption and to the last fall. And that's why I'm reading this. And that's why we're going to take our time. We're going to go through the book on Tartaria. And I'm going to most definitely pull up some things and show you that. So he basically found out, he basically joined the Freemasons to gain more knowledge. Okay. But in him doing so, he said, with the help of several people far more knowledgeable than myself, I uncovered mass genocide, a series of events that included cloning babies, okay, destroying free energy, and the devastation of almost every major city and town in the world. Not just here in the U.S., because if you look at all the major cities in the U.S., they all burned. All over the world, it was a reset because they had to kill off the original people. I'm telling you, they had to go to war. They had to create this fake system, the Greek and Roman period, okay? That was nothing but war and factions. I'm telling you. They rewrote history, y'all. They wrote themselves into history. I mean, you just got to read. You got to do the research. So he says the devastation of almost every major city and town in the world from the Common of 1811, and I do believe the Carrington event was in 1818, okay? You got to look up that. But he says the Great Common of 1811 until the end of World War II, millions of people have been killed simply because they refused to comply to the New World Order. This is the New World Order, okay? We're in the New World. They had to destroy everything else prior to bringing us up to where we are right now. You get it? You understand? So, like I said, everything that we've been taught has been a lie. It's been to cover up a far greater, deeper and deeper diabolical plot. And they carried it out successfully. And, you know, you're going to say, well, Nisi, how does this help me? How does this? Because if you don't go back and look at what was done in the fucking past, you're going to continue to make the same damn mistakes. You got to course correct. And it's not going to be, oh, we're going to march. We're going to do this. We're going to protest. It's going to have to take some more deep focus and understanding. It's like you got to cut every freaking thing off. Like people, family, you got to limit your time on social media, watching TV, work. I'm telling you, you got to restructure everything to get to this point to where you just say, flip it. I'm done. I mean, I see what Chief's saying. We got to be able to move together as people, but we can't do that. So you're going to have to do it where you are individually, right? So then he says, therefore, it will come to, as no surprise, that the late 1800s saw the mass eruption of asylums, prisons, and orphanages to house these nonconformists and their children, okay? The same period of time also experienced war on a scale never seen before. Okay, from the Napoleonic to the many civil wars, followed by World War I, World War II. It seems as though anyone that wasn't required to play a role in the New World Order was sent away to kill each other. Sent away to kill each other. So, like, look at the Boxer Rebellion and the Bolsheviks. Chief is right. I have the books in there. When you study this, you look at it's the same group of individuals all around the world doing this shit. I mean, and he's right. If I had not have listened to him, took notes, and then gone in and did my research, then I wouldn't be able to connect the dots and see the greater picture. Do I know everything? No. But it is lining up for me perfectly to where I see what the fuck has happened. And it's like, whoa, it'll blow your mind when you start to look at it, you know? So it's like, for me, the reason why we need to look at these things and examine it is because, again, if we continue to keep making the same mistakes, we're not going to grow. We're going to continue to fall and play right into their hands. And every time there's a reset, it gets worse for us. It'll be worse for our children and our children's children, the generations behind us, you know, that will be coming behind us after we've exited the avatars. And we come back, if you come back. you're going to be in that same, walk. We have over 15 generations of epigenetic memories and DNA within our body, if not more. It's unlimited. Okay. It's a storage. Our bodies are storage components. And that's why they work so hard to poison us, feed us human bodies, human meat, taint the air, the put the fluoride, the PFAS in the water, the soil, lacks nutrients. They're introducing new biotechnology supposedly to engineer the soil now. I mean, I'm just telling you, they have gotten so far away from the original way this dome was. It's unbelievable. Like, they have been terraforming this planet since they came up from the deep. I mean, I know how that sounds, but it's the truth. So he said, it seems as though anyone that wasn't required to play a role in the new world was sent away, and they killed each other. They fought. And that's exactly what we're doing now. We're all fighting each other, and they're just sitting back and they're laughing. They get a kick out of this shit. And then it says, while the people in charge sit back and watch, but what was the real purpose of it all? A little more digging, I discovered that all of this was to see the destruction and removal of the pages of history of the Tartarian Empire, which is all around the world. Now, I'm going to get into his book, but I'm simply telling you that I'm taking bits and pieces from different authors and different people. And then you have to cross-correlate and go do the research on your own, right? I don't necessarily agree with everything he wrote in this book, but he brings up some valid points, right? So it says, the more I looked into the reset, the more often I would see the names Max Eigen and John Levy appear. I then started to search offline too, and to my surprise found several books on eBay and in secondhand bookshops that had actually mentioned a place called Tartaria. Fast forward 4 years and I have built a modest library. In fact, some of the books I found contain maps that shouldn't exist with races of people, flags and religions that I had never seen before. So armed with this information, I made a few podcasts and then started a group on social media, and very quickly realized that I wasn't alone. Okay. In fact, thousands of people across the world have been searching this very same thing. However, unless you already know about Tartaria and the last reset, most of this information will remain hidden. And like Chief said, they taught about Tartary up until like the 1930s. Okay. And then after that, it just was removed. And then now when you see it, it'll show you like, they'll point to like Eastern Europe, like Russia and over there in that area. They won't come out to state that it was worldwide, because it was. And I mean, it's so plain that I could show my 5-year-old grandkids the pictures of this architecture of the building, because we were taught that it was a Renaissance age. It was this, they had to make up this shit. They literally had to make all this shit up. But there's enough research out there where you can connect the dots and you can lay a timeline or a map out. And that's what we're going to do here on these pages when I read these books to you. So, and then I'm going to jump on camera and I'm going to read to you. And then we're going to do maybe some things online where I can pull up my laptop and take you out there. And again, show you some of the buildings and some of the things that you could point out, right? So he says, he made it through a few podcasts. It was on social media. He got that set up. And he realized he connected with other like-minded individuals that research the same thing. So he said, to help others understand what is happening right now and to serve as a warning and hope that we can prevent another reset, I decided to put pen to paper. And so we begin. Now he says, history has been rewritten. The more backwards in history we go, the more advanced civilizations actually seem to be. Almost 250 years ago, just before the Great Flood of 1802. And he puts it at 1802, but I'm going to go back 100 years and say that there was a reset in 1728 around that time. So between the 1720s on up to the early 1800s, all right, this is where we get the confliction in the dates. You're going to see that. But it's around that time frame when this happened. So it wasn't that long ago, you guys, all right? So it says, There was a great reset. This plunged humanity back into the Stone Age, connecting or concealing all of the knowledge possessed at that time. All right. The knowledge is considered today to be pseudoscience and occultist, and is linked to an empire you might not have heard of, the Tartarian Empire. Some researchers and historians propose that the Dark Ages never actually happened. They did, but not in the scale that you think. Dark Ages was talking about us, black folk, melanated people, autochthonous. I use the word black loosely now because I consider some of you all to be black because you really do not understand the power that you have within you, and you literally are walking around as an NPC, a non-player character in a fucking video game. And this is the Matrix, and you're irrelevant. You're not relevant to what's going on, and you're completely complicit to the bullshit. All right, you're part of the problem. That's what I call you. Black people, you are part of the problem. And we got some white people too that are part of the problem. They don't understand what's going on. They have no idea that they're Cabbage Patch babies and that they were plucked or cloned. And then the other half don't know that they're really truly autochthonous and they have melanated people in their family. They lost, I'm just saying, they done get a job of mixing everything up. They added 1,000 years after the reset. And then they flipped the maps upside down and they flipped the cities, literally. And I will show you that. I'll pull it up on my laptop and show you. Because where we're looking at as far as Lemuria, everybody's thinking it's the redwoods, it's up in California, it's this part of that. But I'm here to tell you that California is actually North and South Kakalaki, or North and South Carolina. That's actually where California is. All right. So today, where we say California, that's not California. That's what we call it today in the New World Order. Okay. New World Order, which we're in 2025, which is not the real date. It's actually 1025, but we're in a new world. So we're going to roll with it. All right. So then it says, some researchers and historians propose that the Dark Ages never actually happened, and that the credit has been given to the Greeks and Romans for many of the magnificent buildings we see today, therefore removing any trace of the Tartarian people. To explore this theory in more detail, first let's start with the current year, 2024 AD. Okay, so this book was written a year ago. There are many, many great minds that believe that the Vatican and their friends, the Jesuits, also known as the Society of Jesus, added approximately 800 years to our timeline prior to the last reset in 1776. Oh, okay. At exactly the same time came the founding of America. Take a look at the back of the American dollar bill, and you will clearly see the words Novus Ordem Circulum, which translate to New World Order. And the date is in Roman numerals, or 1776 if you don't know your Roman numerals, as well as the creation of the nefarious secret society, the Illuminati, and the introduction of the maritime law. All right? He's laid it out. Okay? So, I know I've been doing a lot of talking. I'm going to do a lot of reading now, but I'm just going to say this. In order to create, quote unquote, America, it was already here. Okay? Ancient Egypt was here, if you want to believe in that time period. We were all around the world, okay? They're hiding a huge complex in the Grand Canyon, all right? Off limits to anybody. You'll come up disappeared or missing, right? They've got everything locked down. I'm just going to tell you, there is a lot of hidden history in the Grand Canyons, as well as the Hoover Dam. There's actually a pyramid that's under there. I'm telling you, there's pyramids all throughout this Americas. But my point is that with the New World Order, they had to destroy what was here, okay? So they gave us fictional timelines, and when they set this great plan in motion, they had otherworldly beings to help execute that plan. And they had to bum rush America. So you had 7 different countries that came over here and bum rushed our ancestors, right? Which was ground zero for Tartary. I'm just going to tell you. And then what they did systematically all around the world, they set up wars, and they went to every single continent and started warring. But here in the Americas, they didn't think that our forefathers were going to fight back. And they were able to set up everything, but they had help by us, darkies. I'm just going to tell you the truth. Melanated folks was in on it too. Yeah. So That's how they did that. Okay. So at the founding of America, you've got 7 different countries coming over here. You got warring factions on every side all around the world, as well as here in the Americas. So this was a great big operation, and it took some time to go through this reset, right? But you got to understand, these beings that are above all of this live thousands of years. Hell, we live thousands of years, okay? But they've dumbed us down and limited our lifespan now, so that when we get to the knowledge of knowing, and we are now, we don't have that much time left on the clock. See what I'm saying? So it says, the establishment of maritime law, secret societies, the restructuring of our world governments, and the restructuring of America, and the creation of the quote-unquote America, all right, in Washington, D.C., Roman Empire looks like a computer chip. I'm just telling you, they have the architecture there. It's all from the Tartarian, but they'll tell you it's Roman and Greek. It's Tartarian, all right? And it says, the Jesuits are considered to be the evil religious order that infiltrated the Freemasons in 1776, creating the Illuminati, which sits at the very top of the Freemasonry hierarchy. All right. They have also infiltrated many other secret societies with the blessing of backing of the Vatican, aka the gangster, while he's walking around kissing dark people, melanated black folks' feet. All right. I'm just going to keep it 100. There's videos out there. Shout out to Original Lone Wolf. All right. So the Vatican, the hierarchy, they had to infiltrate many of the secret societies with the blessing of the Vatican, and they are behind many of the world's wars and catastrophes. All right. There's got to be a crown. And that's where it is. Okay. So to summarize, the Jesuits, they can be viewed as the military division of the Roman Catholic Church. These great minds include the Russian mathematician Anatoly Fomenko, a professor at the Moscow State University, well known as a topologist and a member of the Russian Academy of the Sciences. He is the author of the fictitious pseudoscientific history known as the New Chronology, based on his works of Russian-Soviet writer Nikolai Morozov. It is said that Albert Einstein shared the belief that at least 800 years have been added to our timeline and shared the view that the Dark Ages never existed. The Dark Ages were about us, the melanated people, and the destruction of Tartary, which was melanated people. Yeah, there were some light-skinned people sprinkled in, white people sprinkled in, but the majority were all melanated. Just going to tell you. Do the research, you'll see it. Now, I had a pale-skinned friend who told me, yeah, y'all were here first, but they created us because they wanted a more intelligent race. They wanted a race that was more complicit, more compliant, and who would take orders. That's what he told me. I'm not disagreeing with him. But when you start with the original template, you can't get no better from that. I mean, you'll say, hey, we were created because of this, and this, but the crazy thing is you all come from us. Eve gene, baby, you all come from us. It's fascinating to me, though. So it says, the basis of their work is that there have been a phantom events. Okay, wait, let me go back. He says, the Dark Ages never existed. Even Charles Darwin said on his deathbed that he didn't believe his own theories and was paid to create them by the Vatican. All right. I highly recommend reading Anatoly Fomenko's book called The Issue with Chronology. However, it is only the first of 22 books that he wrote on the subject, so you may need a lot of free time or win a lottery before you can get all of them. Isaac Newton also researched the alternative timeline during the last years of his life, but his book, The Chronological of Ancient Kingdoms Amended, was discontinued by the mainstream historians. Might be some books I might have to go after one day. I don't know. The basis of their work is that there have been phantom events, dynasties, and people, often repeated throughout the historical narrative we have been given. This, they claim, was done by the Scaliger chronologists such as Joseph Gallagher. I'm murdering that name. Gallagher was a Jesuit, and is responsible for the timeline we know today. This introduction dubious dating techniques like counting rings within a tree trunk to provide us with its age, referred to as the dendrochronologically. Chronologically. I hope I said that right. Radiocarbon dating, okay, is also under scrutiny, which I knew about that, as it had led to archaeologists simply comparing artifacts that were discovered to similar items found previously and assuming that they all were from the same period. Tell you, you got some people hijacking the shit. They got everything in place, and then if you're in an institution like a university, you're not going to go against the grain because you don't want to lose your accreditation, you don't want to lose your job. You'll be shunned in the faculty, you'll be ousted, you'll be called a pseudoscience, and your life will be ruined. So they go along with the bullshit because it's already in order. So anybody that comes along and goes against the grain, they do what they do with me. They don't give me very many views and knock my channel down. They block me, shadow ban me, all kind of shit, but I don't care. If this message reaches one or two people, that's fine. Then you go do the research yourself and you figure it out and you see where all this fuckery has begun. Just saying. So then he says, therefore, modern archaeology has a flaw. If the original timeline is wrong, everything else discovered after the introduction of the, I hope I'm saying this right, the Scalagrian chronologically will be dated incorrectly. It says it was conceived in the 16th and 17th centuries and derived from the writings of the Jesuit church. All right. Today we believe that the foundation of this concept was created by the, Asclepius Populus and Saint, I can't see that, Hieronymus in the 4th century. However, the paintings we have of these men depict them wearing costumes from the Renaissance period. And the history of the church claims to be able to date events from Genesis in the Old Testament right up to the Nicene Council of 325 AD. However, it wasn't actually published until 1544 AD. I'm going to tell you, every book has been rewritten. Everything has been changed. So you just gotta analyze it and look at the dates and understand that they're giving us this timeline, but it's not the true timeline. This book also raised the question of whether the Old Testament was written before or after the New Testament. This was partly because it contained dates and events that were based purely upon the works of another chronologist, James Ussher, who based his timeline upon the Bible. In fact, he claimed the world was created on Sunday, the 23rd of October, 404 BC. 4004 BC. However, as hard as it may seem to believe that someone 1800 years later could calculate this, there also happens to be some 200 alternative dates for the creation of the world in older versions of the biblical text. These dates fluctuate over a period of 2100 years. Added to this, there were 70 different translators used to rewrite the first Bible. Again, this wasn't done until the Middle Ages, yet was used until the 1800s as divine and unquestionable. Even the Egyptian list of kings was conceived by a Christian chronologically. German historian Robert Badoff wrote History and Its Criticisms in 1903, which proved that the early and Middle Age history was a forgery. In addition to this, the eminent English scientist Edwin Johnson gave the, I'm going to say this again, the Scalagrian chronology serious criticism. After many years of research, he concluded that we are a lot closer to the Greek and Roman empires than we were led to believe. The actual foundation of the Roman Empire varies by 500 years. It was made up. It was wars. In various historical texts, the book Roman History by Titus Livius, born 59 BC, described a 700-year period of Roman history based upon a manuscript of unknown origin. Moreover, it wasn't published until 1469 AD. Within the book was also a missing period of 500 years between the fall of Troy and the foundation of Rome, which was simply filled in with portraits of people that never existed. This can be substantiated by the work of another great mind, German historian Theodor Mommsen. There is a myriad of opinion regarding the time of the pharaohs, too. The first being Menes, whose ascension to the throne dates 5702 BC to 3623 BC. Depending on what or who you listen to today, we literally guess it being around 3000 BC. And very few Egyptologists look into this anomaly, as they lack methods to independently date anything at all, resulting in relying solely upon the Scholarian chronologically too. So, I mean, the system is flawed, you guys. All right. So then he says, since the introduction of the timeline, the discovery of manuscripts that give a different chronological event tends to happen under circumstances that prevent them from being analyzed. In addition, a lot of scriptures that we are led to believe are ancient didn't surface until the Renaissance period. Dark Ages. What I'm telling you is that these Nagas were in on this shit. It wasn't just the pale skins. I'm just being honest with you. we really messed some stuff up. Black people, I'm talking to you. Call yourself black. One thing is for certain. Before 800 AD, we don't appear to have any concrete or substantiated history and have been led to believe that human race, as we know it today, has also been around for about 10,000 years. That's a lie. However, with the case of travel and the speed in which we can share information, there are now independent researchers and authors investigating this for themselves. Graham Hancock alone has disproven the age of pyramids around the world, in particular in South America and the Middle East, suggesting that proving they are much, much older and are typically built upon even older megalithic structures or temples. Yeah. If we consider the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the first written evidence of creation of man, rather than taking Genesis in the Old Testament too literally, it is easy to assume that we are in fact the result of an intervention from far more intelligent and advanced race of people. These people are often referred to as the Anunnaki. They are part of the damn problem. Them with the giants, the custodians, all these little extraterrestrial, interterrestrial, dimensional beings all got together in these factions. Not all of them. There's a set group of these fucktards that did this shit. And they came up to Earth from Sirius B around 300,000 to 400,000 years ago to mine gold. I believe they were here for the resources, but I also know that they set this paradigm up. All right, because they came from beyond other worlds or other lands beyond the ice walls. All right. However, having got tired of laboring in the times or minds themselves, they took the Neanderthal hunter, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. All right. And they took their DNA with Bigfoot and they tinkered it around 250,000 years ago. That's what they told us. All right. That's what they're saying. Thus creating a slave or subservient race now capable of talking with a much higher level of intelligence. But as the Old Testament states, they were created in the image of the gods, but not as a powerful or knowledgeable. This became the story of Adam, the first man, and Lucifer, providing him with a hidden knowledge of who he really was and what he was truly capable of. Our creators therefore being Anunnaki, named Enki and Enlil. And you know they were reptilian. Why do you think I be reading the Murder of Reality? I know. It's okay. I know. It's too much for y'all. Y'all can't handle it. Some of y'all can. Y'all just slow motion this. Slow motion that over your head. All right. Let's get into this last part. So then, with that, they were brothers, okay? The sons of Anu or An, okay? Anunnaki, An, okay? Ruler of the Anunnaki and are the lowercase g or gods that we refer to in the Bible. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth are also known as the Emerald Tablets of Hermes and were discovered in a cave in Turkey and originated from the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. I don't buy that. Because there's more pyramids over here. The pyramids of Giza are the youngest pyramids. There are older pyramids than that. They always point over there, but they're not looking over here. So I'm going to say this, and many of you would disagree, and I give two fucks. I'm going to say them emerald tablets were actually found here in the Americas. Based on what I've read. They are the ancient Arabic works, okay, that predate any other known document or tablet that explains in full detail the universe and creation of all things, as well as God being a source of energy and light. because we're all light beings. And this matrix that we're living in was highly organized and designed by these bastards. I'm going to put it that way. Trying to keep it clean. Strangely enough, Sir Isaac Newton was employed by the Vatican to create the theory of evolution, to give the non-religious amongst us an alternative explanation for us being here. See, they cover the tracks. In the same way, we have been told that the world is a spinning globe. Then, from nowhere, came the alternative theory that it's actually flat. This was a very clever move, as it gives everyone just two concepts to consider, argue about, and is known to be the Hegelian dialect. My thought on this is that when we are given just two narratives, it's probably neither. And I'm going to say it's a dome shape. It's like a bubble dome. That's what it is. Yeah. And there's ways to get in and out of here. Even though it's a closed system, it does open up. It does open up because there's portals throughout this world on energy grids. I mean, that's not hard to find, and that's not hard to figure that shit out. I'm just saying. So, like he said, I personally believe that the world is much larger and may well be separated by an ice wall. Yes, it is. This ice wall is known as the Arctic and Antarctic, and that Earth has a flat surface and isn't round at all, but perhaps an oval floating rock, so to speak. Exactly, a dome. In addition to the works of Flamenco, Alberto Moravia Penicilic, I hope I said that right, a famous Italian novelist and journalist with a vast knowledge of the Tartarian Empire, once famously said that everything that is out there to discover in all fields of knowledge has already been discovered, and there is nothing left to be discovered in the future. Was he a madman, or was he the old world and extremely advanced civilization? It was, because they hid the blimps and the electric cars we had back in the 1800s. We already had all this shit. The shit that Tesla is coming out with, we already had. They just stole the designs. And Tesla was a Negro. I'm just saying, he was a Naga. That depiction on the front of this book, this man right here, this pale-skinned man, that's not Tesla. They made him look like a pale skin. Tesla was Michael, but maybe a little bit lighter than me. I'm just saying, I got pictures of him in there in the other books I got. It's just crazy. In addition, he says, the Tartarian Empire once famously said that everything that is out there to be discovered in all fields of knowledge has been already discovered. Was he a madman, or was the old world an extremely advanced civilization in possession of every knowledge in all the fields of timeless existence? Was that knowledge stolen and kept in possession by the Jesuits, the Vatican, Illuminati, Freemasons, the elites, the parasites, the custodians? That's my point. Being of a Jewish origin from his father's side and with close ties to the Jesuits, Alberto Moravia had first-hand information about most of the undisclosed world affairs, as well as great secrets that are still concealed from the public today. There are several reasons for this way of thinking, and the introduction of the Gregorian calendar in 1582 AD appears to be a large piece of the puzzle. Pope Gregory the 13th, decided to replace the previous Julian calendar to correct leap years and to ensure Easter didn't drift too far away from the date it had been set by, so quote unquote, Jesus died being the 8th, Easter didn't drift too far away from the date it is said Jesus died being the 8th of April, which is my sister's fictional birthday into the Avatar existence, okay? And it's 8 days before mine. Mine's is April the 16th. It still relies on the sun and the solstice as well as the leap years and repeats itself every 400 years. The Greeks were the last to adopt the new system, and there still remains a few religions and indigenous tribes throughout the world that adhere to the old way, the Orthodox Church being one of them. This change in the calendar is where we get April Fool's Day from. It refers to those that still use the 1st of April as the beginning of the new year, rather than the 1st of January as it's said today. These people were to be considered fools by the mainstream, in a similar way to Graham Hancock after the incredible, popular, insightful TV series on Netflix, Ancient Apocalypse. In these series, Hancock investigates a great flood or deluge that occurred around 12,000 years ago, known as the Younger Dryas period. Matt LaCroix and Billy Carson, who I used to follow quite a bit, I have not looked at any of their content or their research in a while. Okay. I kind of did my own thing. There is also a lot of evidence that prior to the introduction of the Gregorian calendar, the year had 13 months rather than 12, with midsummer month long called Sol. This can be found in a lot of old world documents and scriptures. That has proven to be quite hard to find. Maybe because we aren't supposed to know or it's no longer relevant, but to me, this makes it even more interesting. All right. Fomenko and many other mathematicians and scientists believe that the Dark Ages was simply a period of time that the Vatican used to hide a missing chunk of history. That's why they rewrote everything, because they know when Putin released these paintings from the vault and showed that Christ, quote unquote, Yeshua, was dark or black, you got to know that we were the ones that set this shit up with the help of these otherworldly beings. This is why the world is the way it is, because of Nagas. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to wrap this shit up. I'm stopping right there because I could go on and on and on, and I'm over an hour. But, I give you a little bit to think about. Here's the book. Take a screenshot. Go out there and order it online, okay? Found this guy on social media, and I said, I'm going to check your book out. And I told him I was going to read it, and I am. I am reading it right now. The last little bit I want to say about this, it is true. And Turtle Island, what they call over here in the Americas, excuse me, you look at the back of a turtle, you get the 13 colonies, the 13 star systems. I'm telling you, it is just so, it's right in our face and we don't know it. And the crazy thing is, it is considered to be pseudoscience now because it goes against the grain, and it's because you're questioning the narrative that they gave you. Like I said, everything's been rewritten, but you have to go and read different texts to put things together, right? Because a lot of things, like he says, not adding up. So he said the Dark Ages were simply a period of time that the Vatican used to hide a missing chunk of history. He proposes the Roman Empire and the Egyptian Empire were merely still very much alive and well right up until the Middle Ages, some 800 years later than we have been taught. This would certainly explain the incredible condition some of their architecture is still in, and also explains a strange anomaly with the dates found on the buildings throughout the world, because they did try to go in and re-etch and chisel over and cement the dates on these buildings in churches and orphanages. And in fact, the old world buildings that our varying governments took possession of and repurposed these buildings. The majority of these churches, universities, courts, and things like that, they were not those things. They weren't churches. They were energy centers. They were healing centers. They had a purpose to them. I'm just going to tell you that. We repurposed them. They came over here and they repurposed everything. All right. And they blew up a lot of buildings. It was such a destruction on a scale that you would think World War I and World War II was just a walk in the park. It was way worse than that. All right. I often wonder why the mid-1800s had such a huge advancement in both technology, infrastructure, government control, and population boom. This period of time saw the incredible buildings appear almost overnight. And then, of course, we had the Industrial Revolution. Before the Industrial Revolution, we went through from still being rather impressed with the creation of the wheel to suddenly inventing electricity, to the internal combustible engine and the telephone, which my melanated people, we invented. We created all that. You have to go look. And it's no shade, no hate. I'm just simply saying, if you do your research, you'll see it. All right. So, and what they did, which was very bold for them to do and very brilliant in my opinion, because these fuckers got everybody running around here believing in shit. They put up these poles, and they really destroyed or tried to destroy Tesla's work. They did, and they went with what's his name, Albert Einstein instead. And my thing is that we've always had that energy. We've always had access to 0 point or free energy, and the reason why it's not coming out is because then, of course, they lose control. They won't have control of the population like they once did. They had to get rid of the Tartarian Empire. They had to get rid of the golden age to bring us into this new world that we're in now, where they got everybody walking around believing they need BBLs and weaving their hair and fake titties and a man into a woman and a woman into a man. And man, they got this world so effed up right now. It blows my mind. I sit back and I think, I'm like, wow, we've really been screwed. I mean, and the sad part about it is the average person won't even take the time to go research any of this stuff. They'll just listen maybe 10 or 15 minutes and they'll move on. And my thing is once you know, and the only way to make a change is to make a change within yourself, right? All right, I'm at 1 hour and 5 minutes. Let me just read this last little paragraph and then we're going to wrap it up. So he said, this period of time was the incredible buildings appear almost overnight. And then, of course, we had the Industrial Revolution. Before the Industrial Revolution, we went from being rather impressed with the creation of wheel to suddenly inventing electricity, the internal combustion engine, and the telephone. In addition to this, we also saw the foundation of asylums all across the world built to such an incredible standard and with the most amazing workmanship. It seems strange to me that these buildings took just a year or so to complete and were used only to house people that were considered mentally ill. With regard to advancements, if we follow the narrative we've been given, we went from living in the Stone Age to inventing life, changing technology almost overnight, with no explanation as to how the research started and where the inspiration and know-how came from. For example, 1792, New York stock market opens. 1804, the first train is invented. 1817, the first bicycle is invented. 1863, football is invented. 1876, the telephone is invented. 1876, the car is invented. 1878, the light bulb is invented. 1895, the first power tool is invented. 1903, the airplane is invented. 1922, the first TV is invented. No, they took all the inventions that were already here by the melanated people, and they repurposed them and re-released them to pale skins. And not only did they kill millions of melanated people and light-skinned people, okay, melanated and light-skinned people, because light-skinned people come from us, and there were quite a few of you all here, not on the scale that we have today, but you guys fought alongside us because you came from us. You know, you had families that were like that. So, you know, when you start to look at this timeline, you start to see this shit. And you can go pull the patents and look it up. All right? Also, I don't believe that it is coincidence that the very first thing to be established by the forefathers of America was the stock market. No, it wasn't. As we entered the 1870s, life changed forever with the discovery of electricity and huge advancements in transportation. With that in mind, it is important to consider how such incredible buildings were erected prior to the communication and power tools. Just think about it for a moment. The hundreds of temples and cathedrals around the world built with perfect symmetry and aligned to true north. Often Orion's belt were apparently built by hand and with some stone tools. That's bullshit. Because if you look at these buildings like this one right here, look at that. If you look at those buildings, you know that they've been here much longer. They didn't build that motherfucker with some hand tools. Come on now. They didn't. They didn't. Just think about it for a moment. The hundreds of temples and cathedrals around the world built with perfect symmetry and aligned to the true north. Often Orion's belt were apparently built by hand with stone tools. Added to this, many of these buildings show very similar styles and construction techniques, yet was done before we had a practical way to share this information and skill sets. Even today, we can't build these pyramids. We can't build these great structures. We don't have the fucking technology. Well, we do, but they're not going to give it to us. They're going to use it for our demise, like they've been doing. I am of the opinion that the technology already existed and had done so for a very long time. The empire of the Tartaria was one of the huge technological advancements and placed emphasis on free travel around the world via airships, trains, and today the end of their reign via the introduction of the electric car. At the time of the last reset, we also saw an innovation, or rather the initiative known as the passport, thus bringing an end to being able to travel the world freely. The hierarchy of the Jesuit and Freemasons, along with several other secret societies, founded a lot of the new towns and cities we know today, and particularly across America, where they created countries or counties such as California, which up until the 1800s was known as the Isle of Cali, or Queen Khalifa, who was my complexion. The superhero Wonder Woman is actually based upon the ancient goddess Kali. Yeah, and she was a botanist. Okay, for you people who are still calling yourself white and black, she was black. Today we know those people as the elite, but they also always been considered a parasitic race of beings as they live off the hard work of others. And that's a wrap. I was going to get into this book, but I've read a lot, talked a lot, and next time I come back, I'm just going to straight read. And I may come back later on today. I'm going to mark it where we left off at right here. So we stopped right here. Let me take my little page here. Actually, I didn't got further back. Yeah, we stopped on page 20, so I'll pick it back up when I come back. But yeah, I gave you a lot of food for thought. If you want to pick up the book and read along with me, that would be awesome. If you want to pick up this book on Tartaria, The Full Hidden History Unlocked by Swudnani Navintia, TartariaEmpire.com, please be my guest to do so too. All right. Thank you guys for joining me. Remember what I always say, be the change you want to see all around this earth dome, because it's up to you and I to make a positive change. I hope this has been informative to give you something to think about and understand, hey, this is why we need to look back on this stuff. Because if we don't look back at what's been done, we won't be able to course correct. We won't be able to. We'll keep repeating the cycle. We'll keep living a lie, and we won't walk into our true purpose, and we won't walk into what we really need to be looking at, which is an eternal relationship with self, an eternal relationship with the creator of all who lives within us. Energy and light, love and light. Seriously. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon. You guys take care.